And now I would like to introduce Jennifer Prizer, who is from the Chappaqua Garden Club and has been, together we have been a force to contend with. We have pulled this program together, and I want to thank the Chappaqua Garden Club. What a great group of people. Thank you.
Thank you. And we thank you for partnering with us. So tonight we have a special treat. We have Baylor Chapman here to talk to us about plants. Baylor is the author of Decorating with Plants. The library has her book, and you can buy it, of course, at the local bookstore in town, Scattered Books. And she's the author of this book, Decorating with Plants, as well as another book called The Plant Recipe Book. She's the founder of Lila B Design, a San Francisco-based design studio. Baylor has been a guest on PBS's Growing a Greener World, and her work has appeared in Good Housekeeping and Better Homes and Gardens. When she's not in her studio, she's scouring plant nurseries and leading workshops to help plant lovers of all skill levels feel confident that they can make their spaces feel like home with just a little bit of green. Check out her tutorials on sunset.com and houzz.com, HOUZZ.com, and follow her on Instagram, as I do, at Lila B, Lilab Design, and you'll see some really great stuff from her on Instagram. And please use the chat box with any questions that you may have. We'll do the best we can to answer them. And thank you, Baylor, for speaking with us tonight, all the way from California. And I turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks so much to the Chappaqua Library and to the Garden Club. I'm just so tickled to be here. Wish I could have flown out, but everybody's staying at home these days. So it's time to bring some plants inside. And Jennifer, Joan, and I have been kind of brainstorming about what to present today, and I'm just thrilled to be talking with you all. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little slide presentation and then interact with some live things. You're happy to interject with any questions, as Jennifer will be looking at those and feeding me any questions that might be relevant to what we're talking about. At the end, I'm happy to take more questions, and you can always email me directly. So with that, I'll dive into a few pictures here that I have going. Oops. Let's see. All right. So what my purpose is what I love to do is I love to encourage everyone to play with plants. That's kind of the most important thing to me, because they bring smiles, and you can get a little bit of joy from even a tiny, tiny plant. This is my sister, who is actually here with me right now, and she and I love to travel together, and I often persuade her to go do plant related things. And this, she was making a kokedama, which I'll talk about in a little bit, which is basically a moss wrapped plant. And I don't know, I just love it when it came out and she's looking up and smiling. So just plants bring people a lot of joy. I like to provide people with tools and tricks and how to arrange plants, just some ideas on what to do with them once you get them. And my purpose is to help people gain confidence to play with them and to actually have them in their homes. A lot of people say to me, oh my gosh, I'm a plant killer or something. And really, just keep trying. Just keep trying. You'll find the right plants for your home that work for you and your style. So keep on trying. If one doesn't work, just compost it. It's not the end of the world. And today, so more specifically, I could talk about so many things, and it was hard to hone in on just a few ideas here because we only have a little bit of time, and of course it's over Zoom. So today I wanted to just show you the impact on just what one plant can do and how it can really enhance a space. This is an elephant ear plant. I actually got this at a large grocery store with my dad. We were shopping for groceries, and there was this plant was just calling my name, and I still have it. I still love it. This was actually a cutting from his plant that he took home. So I thought I'd show you that. Today, we'll specifically talk about plants as well. And I'll get into the nitty-gritty of certain plants. I'll tell you a little bit how to care for plants, because I'm sure that you're interested in that. And I'll tell you how to combine and design with plants, and how some plants can go together with others and how they look, and actually how to do that. And I'll also talk about the personality of plants and your personality, and how some go together and how you can find a really nice match for that. I'll also talk about location, because it's location, location, location. I know they talk about that with buying a house or some things like that, but it's also with the plant, it's where you put it. So here's another impactful location for this. All of a sudden it changes the space. It goes from, you know, a space to a really kind of powerful and comfortable place to sit. So one thing to think about before you head to the nursery, or when you're at the nursery, what's it for? And today I want to encourage people that it's not only for just a plant in your house. You could use them as party centerpieces, which I love to do. You can use them as holiday decor. And I'm specifically talking about that because the holidays are coming up. It's fall. It's a really nice time to hang some things on your front door. And then what probably came to mind when you were, you know, thinking about this lecture is the permanent plantings, the plantings that go in your home. I'll talk about all three of those today. So party centerpiece. This was a wedding I think I did back in 2010, and it was one of my favorite weddings. And the reason it was one of my favorites is because the bride asked for living centerpieces, or arrangements that she wanted to take home long after the party, long after the celebration. She wanted to keep those succulents or keep those orchids. So we created this. And what I think is really fun about this is that we created these little meadows on each of the dining tables. And we used what I call quick and dirty method of kokedama. And kokedama, as I said before, is a moss wrapped plant. So at this point, I'll slip away from the PowerPoint presentation, and I just want to quickly show you in person how to create a really quick and dirty kokedama. So that's before that. And then, okay, so I should be back on your screen now. And what I'd like to show you is quick and dirty kokedama. And kokedama, if you want to know more about it, just Google it. It's Kokedama. It means moss and round ball. And also, I learned about it in Japan, and I learned this method that you use certain clay, and it takes a while, and it's a really beautiful method. But today I'm showing you quick and dirty, and I'm not even going to use moss because it's fall season. And a lot of you probably don't have sheet moss lying around your house, and you probably don't have burlap either, but it's much easier to get than moss. So I thought I would do it with this. And here I have my sheet of burlap. You can get it at any fabric store, or even probably a hardware store. This is really the quick and dirty method. So I'm taking this, and I'm taking my, this is a ripsalis. I don't know if you guys know this plant. I love it. It's a forest succulent. It's pretty darn fabulous. So I'm going to do this. I'm taking my plant out. I'm going to make a little bit of a mess. I love this plant. I think it's in really good shape, by the way, because the roots are lightly around the edges. It's not root bound. It didn't just fall out too. It kept the shape of the vase. So when you buy plants, you really want them to come out of their grow pot, which is this container, like this. This was a nice specimen. So all I'm going to do is I'm taking this, I'm plopping it in here, I'm wrapping it around, and I'm going to use, for this method, I'm just going to use rubber bands because they match. The reason I like to do this is, you know, the slide that you saw before, you saw all those little moss balls and right on the table. So this way, say you do an arrangement with these on your table, you can take it apart at the end of the night and give it away. But what I'm going to show you is a really quick arrangement. So if you wanted to do some sort of living centerpiece, you've got your vase. So here's my vase. I already prepped a few different plants that are my favorites. One is this begonia. It's a Rex begonia. I don't know if you guys know these, but I just love, love, love them. So I put it in here. One thing that you want to do, and I'll emphasize this later in the talk, is you want to make sure your vessel is waterproof, or you want to use some sort of corks or things like that on the bottom. Here's another one of my favorite plants, and this is a streptocarpus. It's got some really long leaves, but the flowers are just spectacular. And I hope that you have these in houseplant stores back east. If you don't, check out online places like Logie's. And if you email me and aren't able to write this down, I can certainly send you any information like that. But they tend to send out plants like this. So then I'm going to take my ripsalis and I'm squeezing it in here. And the reason I wanted to take everything out of the vase is twofold. One, I wanted to squeeze it in, and all the grow pots might not have fit in here. And it's kind of nice to be able to take apart your arrangement and give it to your friends at the end of dinner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plop in a few succulents. And I also want to prove to you guys that it doesn't take that long. These succulents, I know I got a question today on Instagram, and I don't know if you're watching today, but you wanted to know about succulents and sunshine and watering. And I can cover a little bit about that today, but you can always email me directly and ask for those questions. These are succulent cuttings from my garden. I just literally cut this and it will root. It will. I'm putting this in here, and then what I really want to do, I think it's nice, but it could use a little pizzazz. So I'm going to take this air plant that's right behind me, and I'm going to plop it in here. And I love these arrangements because they're kind of like little puzzles that you're just putting it together. I'm not really planting it. It's more of a temporary arrangement that I can take apart and put back together at any other time. So here you go. I'm going to put this right behind me. And that is one of those. So Jennifer, if I had any questions about that, you're welcome to chime in. Okay. Did I have any questions about the?
Okay. Let's see. Can you see the chat box at all?
Oh, I can.
Okay. So do you have to use yeah. Can you see
that's a great question. So thanks for asking about that. Do you have to use succulents for kokedama? Actually, succulents are not great with kokedama because if you are using moss as your like wrapping paper or around it, moss wants low light and a lot of water. And succulents, most of them want less water and more light than moss. So you can, and they can do it for a more temporary arrangement. But I would suggest things like ferns or peperomia or something that can take a little bit less light for kokedama. And then, okay, great. Oh, spelling of plants. Okay, I will happily try and spell from you. And if there's anything that you think you heard, you can type it in here and ask me to spell it, and I can do that for you. Streptocarpus is one of the ones that I said, and it's S-T, oh, I'm such strepto, S-T-R-E-P-T-O-C-A-P-U-S, I think. I'm no good at spelling these, but keep the questions coming, everyone. Okay, so now I will go back to my slide presentation and we can continue on. All right, just to reference again, here is your living centerpiece. And also a little note about this is I used a piece of moss that comes in a roll. I think it's real. I think it might be fake on the bottom as the vase, but you could use a tray. You could use a wooden cutting board or something. Just make sure that you protect your table if you're going to do something like this. All right. Let's Let's go back down. All right, so seasonal hanging, that's another thing that you could do with houseplants. Here you'll see I have a huge air plant in this wreath arrangement, and I also have succulents. I love succulents, I love air plants, and they're nice ways to make this wreath last a little bit longer. Now, if you're back east and you're putting this outside, it's not going to live because succulents and the air plants will freeze, but it would be a nice holiday decoration for indoors. All right, so we'll get to the permanent plantings or the long-term plantings. Here I have this Ficus triangularis, and I'll talk more about ficus later. I actually have this ficus, this same one behind me to my left. It's gotten a little bushier since that photograph was taken. So here, you know, just a whole bunch of long-term plantings. So you can use them to just fill up your house. I'll talk a little bit about that. So the environment, what do your plants want? They need three things. I mean, they need a lot of things, but here I'll talk about three. And one is light. What's your light source like? What's your temperature in your house like? And what's the humidity like? So we'll start with light. So here is a bunny-eared cactus, and this wants bright, direct light. And the reason you can see this is direct light is see that sharp shadows, they're very sharp. Light is hitting this plant and it is happy. So if somebody says you need bright light, what's that look like? Here's that Pilea peperomoides that Jennifer showed at the beginning of the talk that's next to her. Mine's a little smaller, but here it is, and it likes bright light. It can take a little bit less light, but how do you make bright light? Well, if you have a window that's direct light, put a white sheer curtain in front of it, and then you have some bright light. Okay, what's moderate light? This is a Cupid peperomia. Peperomias are also one of my favorite plants. I just really love them. And I think it's called Cupid because of the cute heart shape. This can take some moderate light. So if you look at this image and you see the shadows, they're a little bit fuzzy, but you can still see them. They're not as sharp. And then we're going down to low light. What's low light? Well, you don't see many shadows. You see a little bit of the shadow, but it's very faded. These are two great plants, a ZZ plant, which is, I always call it the easy ZZ, but it's a ZZ plant, it's very easy. And then a metallic palm is a really cool plant as well. That one is featured and profiled in the book. I don't see it around as much, but I really, really like it. Okay, you don't have any light, but you want some plants that have or that require more of a light source. Or as Jennifer and I were speaking the other day, she's bringing some plants inside for the winter and might not have the place to put them all. So you can get a light box or you can get LED lights. This is a specific contraption that I purchased from a company called Modern Sprout. And what it does is it actually has LED lights in the top of it, and you can program this on a timer, but you don't have to get that fancy. You can go to a big box store, you can go to your local hardware store, you can buy LED. Make sure you get LED because LED has all the wavelengths or the whole color spectrum that your plants need. If you just do a regular light bulb that's not LED, I think it mostly has the orange or red, just not everything your plant needs. So get an LED light and you can put it on a timer or you can just turn it on when you think your plant needs it. Some plants need 12 hours, some can get away with less, but it's a good solution. Okay, temperature. I am showing this picture on a windowsill because I thought it was appropriate to talk about temperature because a lot of us have homes that, you know, they're average temperatures inside. But if you choose to put your plants on a windowsill and it's 100 degrees in the summer, it might be hotter near the windowsill. Or vice versa, in the winter when it's snowing, they could get really, really cold. So kind of pay attention to that. And humidity. Humidity is really important to plants and it's also really important to us. Not for all plants, but some. This is a needlepoint ivy and it is in a cloche. So it's enclosed, so it's going to have its own little ecosystem to create its own humidity. What you can do, and especially back east, if some of you have radiator heaters or you have a place that's very hot, you could put a plate or a bowl with some gravel in it and then put some water in it, and the water will evaporate. You don't want your plant sitting in the water. That's why you put it on top of gravel. You just want it to enjoy the benefit of the evaporation of water, and it creates a little more humidity. Just a side note on this picture, the window is really dirty, and note that if you need more light for your plants, clean your windows. It makes a big difference. So this window is just a bit too dirty. You could put your plant in some sort of terrarium vessel. This is a nerve plant, kind of a fun one. Or just put it in a ball jar and put it upside down. It will love it.
There was a question I thought maybe it would be important. Are there many types of LEDs and only some of them are color corrected for plant life? I didn't know that.
Okay, I will, thank you. And I'll do some more research on that. Yeah, you can also look out for grow lights, which would be appropriate for your plants too. Great, thanks for that question and that comment actually. Okay, another way to create more humidity, and if you're here to talk about plants, maybe you want more plants. So this is a fun, just to point out one of these plants, it's an African candelabra cactus. It does need a lot of humidity, but say some of your other plants do, just add more plants. So the more plants you add, the more humidity there is, and they'll all kind of help each other out. Just to point out a plant that if some of you are really plant people, I've got this Ficus Audrey that's in on the left side of the picture that I think is a really neat ficus. I'm talking a little bit about repetitive genus today, just so you get familiar with more. So I'm going to cover some ficus later, but I didn't talk about Ficus Audrey, and this is a nice one. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Apologies. Okay. All right. So one thing to think about when you're out buying plants, how much time do you want to spend on them? Because some are going to take a lot of time or more time. Some aren't going to take time. And what's your budget? Some are going to be really expensive because they're slow growers or they're hard to find. What's your budget? Just things to think about. All right. So the plants, let's dive into a few plants. All right, I'm going to cover 3 different categories of plants: easy, medium, and fussy. I chose this fussy one because it's Halloween. So we'll get that, almost Halloween, but we'll get to that plant in a second. First, we'll start out with easy. A lot of you probably know this plant. It's called the snake plant or mother-in-law's tongue. Fairly easy to take care of. And some people might say, oh, I don't want one of those. I already know about that. But I wanted to show you there are so many different colors and shapes and sizes that you can still get a really easy plant, but it might just look a little different than the one you're used to seeing. So this one is also called the bowstring hemp, but it's so related to the snake. So I put it in here. Easy to find, easy to care for. You see it around a lot. Here's another one. I think the yellow variegation on this one is really, really pretty. It's called Singer's Silver, and it's gorgeous. Easy to care for, pretty easy to find. Okay, so then I'm getting into some different ones here. So here are 2 different. And then there's cylindrica. So there's like little cylinders, and I think they're fabulous. And you can also get them braided. And I wanted to show you 2 things. One is, well, here's a real one braided. And I might show it to you later just to show it to you in comparison because I show it in a scene in the book. And this I've had since I photographed the book probably in 2017, I believe. And literally it was in my apartment and or my studio in San Francisco, and I hadn't gone there for months. It was still looking good. So it's an easy one. Here's also, this is what they actually braid them out of. And I can take this off screen share for a sec if you want to see this. I thought this was really interesting. This is the same. It's a braided sansevieria. And I got this recently and I bought them at a wholesale nursery. They had come in from South America and they were actually planted. And I said, no, I'll unplant it. And it was very, it just started to root. So a lot of nurseries get these shipped in and then they root them themselves. Thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to see if I can braid them. So that's why I got a few. I don't know, but I'm going to try it. All right. So back to the braided sansevieria, which I think is a fabulous and easy plant. To how to design with them. Okay, here's one. Here's a bedroom. Huge one next to the bed. Another benefit of these is they release oxygen at night. So kind of nice. And they're supposedly one of the better air purifiers. And I could get into the NASA study, and there are people who are saying that the NASA study is very controlled. You need a lot of plants to clean your air, but come on, if they do, have a couple around. So, and then if you wanted to get fancier with your sansevierias, put a whole bunch in one place. These are really cool. There's one in here, that tall one is called Super Clone, and it's probably 5 feet tall. It's a really neat one. And then we've also got a bird's nest fern in there and a starfish fern. They have great names. If you wanted to put one in your living centerpiece, like I showed you before, you could certainly do that. This is a basket, so you'd want to make sure that you have a waterproof planter underneath. You might want something with drainage holes as well in there, and you could take it out and water it and put it back. But you can also use it as a living centerpiece. All right, so what are some medium plants that you can play around with? I mentioned the ficus earlier. So here's Ficus lyrata, the fiddle leaf fig. I'm sure you guys have seen this around. It's kind of the darling of architectural magazines. But I thought I wanted to show you some different ones. I love this one. And this is Ficus alei. And I'm saying that pausing because I used to say it differently. And today I thought, well, it was, it's from Hawaii, or named in Hawaii. So let's look up how Hawaiians say it. And it means chief, or it's some honorable term. So I think that it's really nice that alii, Ficus alii. I think it's nice. And it's a really fabulous plant. So here it is in a really bushy, low form. It's probably a few feet tall. You can also get one. This is a different one. This is McClandii, variegated, but I still wanted to show it because it's only about this big. I got this one from Logis. If any of you were wondering how to spell Logis, it's on this screen. You can get plants, house plants online through them. And that's where I got it. And I still have this one. Or you can get them really big. And I love this. This is another one. It's just been trained as more of a topiary, or the lollipop style. And it also, they trained the trunk to have this curved. And this one is about 7 or 8 feet tall. It's really fabulous. It's really wide. So they come in all shapes and sizes, basically. Same plant, different form.
How does somebody train a ficus?
I think it's very slow growing. And what they're doing is, I believe that they're using both light and form to help train it around. Some plants follow light, some plants go away from light, and then when it's young, and just to grow around. But it's different. Here is the Ficus triangularis that I talked about before. That's the one behind me. There's a variegated variety in the hanging pot. These are fairly easy to find, not too expensive. Let's get to Fussy. And when I was thinking about what fussy plants to choose today, I thought, well, let's just go with the season. It's October, it's almost Halloween. Let's go with something fussy and something funky and weird. So I chose carnivorous plants because they are harder to find, they're harder to grow. This is a living arrangement that's kind of in this boggy setting. It's in this huge brass bowl, or was. This was for the plant recipe book, which was the first book that I worked on. And you'll see the pitcher plants, which I'm going to focus on. Here's pitcher plants. You can get these from specialty growers. There's one called Black Jungle Terrariums or something like that online. And I'll have to figure out, if you need to know, I can definitely email you the name and let you know who it is. But there's an online source where you can get them if you can't find them at your local nursery. So here's their mouth, and the flies or bugs actually go in there. They're attracted to the scent, and then it's all slippery and they stay in there. And when I had an outdoor nursery at Stable Cafe in San Francisco, it was neat when kids came by. They're always attracted to these because they're just fascinating. You don't need any fertilizer. They do it all on their own. Here it is with a Nepenthes, which is also called a monkey cups. They actually take a little bit less light than the Sarracenias or the pitcher plants, but it's said to monkeys drink out of them. I don't know if this is true. Up in the canopies in the jungle, they climb up there, and that's where they all hang out, and monkeys can drink out. I don't know. Some things I believe, some things I don't. Here's just another variety. And then they also flower, which I think this is fascinating. They do this in the spring. A little spooky image for you since it's Halloween. And I don't know if you can see the bug in there, but this is a terrarium we did, and this is the bug. Okay, so it's also coming up on holiday season, bulb season for some plants. And so I thought I'd also include the amaryllis, because I think of holiday plants, I think of the amaryllis. They're usually sold in bulb form, but sometimes you can buy them in blooming. They're going to be more expensive if you buy them when they're blooming. And if you do, you want to buy them when they're little and they're kind of closed, so they keep on bringing you joy. Here's just a close-up picture. And then this picture, I wanted to stress that a lot of people run out, oh, I don't have the right vase, I don't have the right container, I don't have the right pot, but go out and find what you have in your house. You can use a salad bowl. This, I used it's a candle holder, you know, and it's from this place called Campo di Fiori. I love their style. So I used that to house my amaryllis for a while. You can also put them in with arrangements. It doesn't have to just be on its own by itself. So here's an example of that. And in case you're interested, I thought I'd do a quick segue into how would you make this? So here it is. I used a salad bowl. I used my friend's salad bowl. I borrowed it when I was working on the book. So when you're using something like a salad bowl, or you're setting your arrangement on your dining table or your entry table, and you want to protect it from any water damage, that's one of the most important things. I worked on an estate for a number of years and worked inside their home, and I was always so nervous about staining or ruining their, you know, their nice dining room table where we had arrangements, or their floor or rugs. So you have to protect it. And I like to double and triple protect. Here I'm showing you pictures of corks that you can buy at nurseries, little plates or trays you can buy at nurseries. With corks, if you're going to use them, I also like to put a little bit of felt on the bottom, because often that plastic can scratch your table. So protect the table. Wanted to also show you an image of the plastic liners that I use. It's in the background of this image. It's just a little clear plastic liner. I buy them at the Flower Mart in San Francisco, but you don't have to use that. You can use a bowl. You could use the bottom of a soda or a water bottle and cut it off. Just use something to help you protect. More pictures of
I just want to mention something we have.
Yes.
A top, I don't know the names of these plants, but a top quality amaryllis, but it's a hippeastrum,
Yes.
are available at White Flower Farm in Connecticut.
Yes, White Flower Farms has a great, I used to get their paper catalog, but I don't get that anymore. I bet you it's online. So White Flower Farm is a really nice source for that. Another source for bulbs that I get, a lot of my bulbs, dormant bulbs, from Brent and Becky's Bulbs. if you're really into tulips and crocus and those things, you can get them from Brent and Becky's Bulbs. So White Flower Farm, Brent and Becky's Bulbs. Thank you for
Also-
chime in anytime with
Also,
great
the
tips like that. I
Chappaqua
appreciate it.
Garden, the Chappaqua Garden Club, we sell bulbs. So
Oh.
reach out to us. We have lots and lots of bulbs. We have a huge variety. So that's also a good source.
Good. Yes. Stay local. All right. So I just thought I'd show you a quick how-to. I took this salad bowl, lined it with a garbage bag because, you know, it's hard to find the exact size. I wanted something malleable. I put in some of those plastic liners and I set my plant. Then I set another plant. This is the peperomia. This could be red ripple or something like that. I really like this plant a lot. I kept these plants in their original grow pot to make it easy. Added another peperomia, and then here it is. Added the calla lily at the final step, and here it is. So you can do it. It'll be fun. You know, it's a nice. It's different than floral arrangements, but I try to get my plant arrangements to be in the same place. You know, they can be used as temporary decor. You know, the calla lily might not live very long and the amaryllis is going to go dormant. So then just pot them up and put them somewhere else. Okay, so plants, they're big mood setters and style communicators.
We have another question.
Yeah.
Is the liner there to protect the wood from falling apart?
Yes. So I put the garbage bags there and the liner there for to protect my friend's salad bowl because it was a pretty one, and because I wanted to use a vase that wasn't typical. So when you do that, you need to line it and protect it. I probably put a cork in the bottom of this too, just to extra protect it. And it's also in case even some pots, say you use something like this, you know, ceramic, it might actually sweat. And even if there's not if there is water in here, it's supposedly waterproof, it might still kind of sweat onto your table. So I always say double and triple protect. Put a liner in here or put some sort of plastic layer and then put a cork on the bottom.
And another question, do you mix plants that take the same light?
Okay. So with that, if my arrangement were going to be a long-term arrangement, something that I wanted to last for many, many months, I'm more likely to do that. But if I'm trying to create some sort of showstopper, something that might be more temporary and I might take apart later, then I might not. I might kind of do it on color and style and shape and texture versus where it would likely grow. However, sometimes it's more pleasing to the eye if you see something that actually does grow together in the same place. But good question. Okay.
Another question?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Jen's getting them, that's why. Can moss from the outside be brought inside and used in a terrarium?
Yes. And I think that what people say about foraging is if you're in a national park or you're somewhere like that, it's not really great to do it there. Kind of keep the things there. But if it's in your backyard and yeah, bring it in and you can use it. It might also have some other weeds in it. I get my sheet moss from Oregon and Florida. It's harvested. It's from some sort of farm. And I bet you it might even be, unfortunately, some fumigated or something terrible before it's brought to California. So it's not gonna bring in any weeds, but yeah, I have done that. I have on top of our carnivorous plants before in these mossy things. I've done moss from gardens and outside. All right, here is the strike a mood. So you enter your home and you kind of, you want to signify something home. And this is going to be a little extravagant. This would be extravagant for me anyway, but it sets the tone. Maybe you're having some sort of party And this is probably in line with a question that I received earlier about similar plants in similar light conditions. You know, this is more of a temporary arrangement. When the hydrangea fades out, the blooms fade out, or the orchid is spent or something, I might pull those out and put something else in, and let it evolve and change with time. So as far as your entry goes, I think it's a really nice place to put plants. And who are you? What's your personality? What do you want to tell people about yourself? Or what do you want to see every day? What's enjoyable to you? Is it something kind of romantic and pink like this entryway? So we've got a begonia here, and I've got an abutilon, and then I have a little streptocarpus down there, which is just one of my favorites. So precious and dangly. So this is kind of a romantic mood. But say, I don't know, you want something bold and you want something really easy to take care of. So this is a great solution. This is the starfish sansevieria that was in another arrangement. And it's also a fernwood sansevieria. And I've got a dracaena is in here as well. That's the one on the far right. I use this old blacksmith bag as its container, and I've got moss on the top, you'll see, and it's definitely lined in there because I'm sure this thing isn't waterproof. But here's an overview of the whole entry. So it's the same setup, the same entryway, but just a little different. Added in a zygopetalum orchid here, which are fragrant and delightful, and they just are wonderful. I thought they were hard to get, but then I have found them at Trader Joe's, which I thought was fascinating and lovely because I love strange orchids. Say you're a little bit of you want a little bit more of a personality, or you're a world traveler and you want things that are curious, and you want your guests when you come in to be, what is that? What's that plant? I chose a few here that I love. One is called a Ming Thing cactus, and it is second in from the right. It's next to the panda plant, which is a Kalanchoe tomatosa. And some of these pictures are in the book, and everything is named there as well. You can always email me, but you can always, if you have the book, all the names are in here too. And then there's a Susanna's euphorbia in here as well, and a grafted plant. So here's the overall, just to show you a little different. So same entryway, same piece of furniture, but how you can make it different and how you can make it speak to you. Okay, so you want to go a little tropical. This is a pineapple, and pineapples are in the bromeliad family. They're related to air plants, actually, and bromeliads. And this one I actually did eat. It was okay. I let it ripen. I hung on to it for a while, but I thought it was really a fun way. You'd need a lot of light in your entry if you have this one. So a little sunshine. And pineapples are used a lot in entryways, and they welcome people, and it's an old tradition, so it's symbolic as well. Okay, so into going curate. How do you curate your plants when you get them home? Where do you want to put them? Where do you want to display them? I'm big on the sansevierias. I just wanted to repeat the plants here so you can see some plants over and over again in different settings. Here too, the small one on the right is a bird's nest sansevieria, and I think it looks okay at this angle, but this angle, it looks really fabulous. So what I would do with this plant is I'd want to put this low. I'd want to put it on a coffee table or somewhere where I'm going to enjoy the view from above, because I think it's much nicer to look at. I'll just go back. It's great that way, but this way is really pretty. So it's your point of view. Here is another arrangement. Here's on a dining table. One thing that you want to think about on your dining table, your kitchen table, you want something a little more durable, and you want something low. When I used to do a lot of floral arrangements for weddings and other events, I had a rule of thumb. It was I'd put my elbow on the table and put my hand up, and I didn't want my florals to go above here because that meant people couldn't talk to each other across the way. So here is another view of that same arrangement. I like arrangements that draw you in And when you get there and you look at them, there are some details to see that I think are interesting. Okay, and if you don't have room on your table and you have a bigger budget, you can always buy a lamp or a light fixture that has a vessel at the top for your plants. And yeah, I couldn't resist with this one. I thought it was really fun, but it's not everybody's thing. Okay, so then there's the vase and the plant relationship. So we talked about the vantage point, where you're going to see your plant from, and then also how's your plant look in a different vase. This is a chenille plant. These are finicky, by the way, if you're wondering about them. Same exact plant, take the photo taken minutes later, just put in a different vase. This is a little more zen, a little more squat. I think it's still pleasing to the eye, but I prefer this one, to tell you the truth. I think it's a little more regal, a little more elegant, where this one is more, it's more minimal, I'd say. So it's how you can change your plant or you can change your vase, and it makes the whole thing look different. Here is, this is a copper tone sansevieria, which is one of my favorites. I just love the colors of the leaves on this one. And you can tip it on its side. You don't have to have your vase propped up. But here's one, and then here's that same plant in a different vase, just a different look. When you're at the nursery and you're thinking about buying your plants or buying your bulbs, when you go to the Chappaqua Garden Club and you pick up all those bulbs, I don't know if you guys have this one. It's a Peruvian lily. I bought it at a nursery, a regular nursery, where I love to buy most of my plants, by the way, from people I know that cared about it. I know plants are their thing, so it's a good place to buy your plants. So here you can watch it grow. But if you're going to buy a plant that it's already in bloom, like this Paphiopedilum or this lady slipper, one thing to think about is if you bought the plant on the far right, it's already done a lot, and then it's going to start to fade. Where if you bought the plant on the far left, it's actually coming into bloom. So you get to watch it, and you get to watch it change and bloom and evolve every day.
Baylor, you may be getting to this, but there's a question about plants that flower more than once, like a prayer plant, but you might be,
Oh, I'm not, but if a moth orchid is a plant that blooms and blooms and blooms, but you have to have some patience in between. The streptocarpus that I talked about before, this one, keeps on blooming and blooming and blooming. It's a really neat one when it does start blooming. What are some others? I'll think about that and I'll keep going. And when I see one that's going to continue to bloom, I'll bring it up.
Got it.
One thing to think about is playing with your light. So I talked earlier about light source for your plant, but it's also fun to play around with light and how shadows interact with your plant. This is a sago palm, and it does want bright light for sure. But hear how it evolves, and now you can see the arrangement kind of spread across your table. So think about that with other plants. There are many plants you can play around with this, especially plants that or leaves that might have holes in them or something could be really, really beautiful to play with light. I think about texture. Here's that same elephant ear that I showed you earlier. And you'll see in these pictures how it has texture to it. And so play with that, figure out where you're going to set it so the light can shine through and you can really see it. This is a bromeliad that has mottled leaves that I think is gorgeous. And an escargot begonia, one of my favorites, that just looks kind of royal when the sun's shining through it like that. All right, so some design theory. Sounds so, I don't know, too much like a professor, but it's all about just why to have plants besides just liking them. Because we do like them. There's something about them. They're really good for their well-being. And I've given a talk on this before about, I call it the power of plants. And really, they're so good for you. And if you have a friend in the hospital, bring them a plant. It'll really help. There were some studies done with folks in hospitals and people who had a view of some sort of nature, you know, looking at a tree or looking at some greenery versus those who were in a room that looked at just an empty wall. The people who got to see a little bit of nature took less medication and healed faster. I'm oversimplifying, but it's really true. So plants aren't just woo-woo, they really are good for us. So we can talk about design ideas. How do you design with plants? What do you think about when you bring them into your home? Here's a home, kind of masculine, kind of plain. And we've brought in these foxtail palms. And the theory here with this design, although it's just a couple of plants, I think I have a nerve plant in the middle. But there's some concepts going on here. And one is symmetry. You know, it's really kind of anchoring for us to see this symmetry. You've got one on the right, one on the left. It's also a really masculine setting. And the curve of the plants help make it feel a little bit more feminine and a little more soft. Also, with the planters elevated off the ground, it gives it a little more air and a little more room to breathe. Otherwise, they might be very stocky if they were just set on the ground. I got those planters and the plant stands at Anthropology or Terrain, in case you have Anthropology has a nursery or a plant division called Terrain. But I think lifting them off the ground really, really helped. I also have a lot of pattern repetition here, which I'll talk about again. The pattern of the leaves with the pattern of the photograph in the middle, with the pattern of the knitted blanket and the coffee table. They're all kind of repetition, and that makes us feel more comfortable. Here's an entirely different space. This one feels a little more cozy to me than the last and softer. And instead of symmetry here, I'm going to talk about balance. Balance to me is kind of this rhythm and kind of like music. And that's what I wanted this arrangement to be like. And you probably don't even notice it, but I just added a couple plants down below underneath the coffee table. And the idea here is layer your plants. So start somewhere, or you can even start somewhere unpredictable. What I like about this coffee table, it's glass and you can see through it. So you would be able to enjoy the plants, but they're kind of out of your way. Notice that they're also in pinks and natural colors. And I've kind of played with that color scheme throughout. Now we added plants on the right. It's kind of long and heavy, lean. It's not really tall. And we've also layered them again. Don't forget about behind your sofa. You don't have to put everything on both sides. I've got a plant tucking or peeking out from behind the couch here. You can use books as plant stands because a lot of times I want my plants to be at different levels. I might not want them all to be on one plane. So here I've added some books for that. And then here's how it all comes together. And you'll see that one side's much higher than the other, but they're still balanced because one is tall and narrow and the other kind of goes long and lean. And using this a similar plant palette throughout. A plant you all might like is, and this is the only place I'm probably showing it, is a rubber tree. It's a really nice one. And this is a variegated variety, probably called Ruby. All right, here's a desk. I call this the Zen desk. And this is different. So the shelves are all on one plane and they're kept that way to kind of create rhythm and to create kind of, you're really centered here. The color palette is blue. And blue is very calming. It's like sky and like nature. So even though there's a lot of metal here, I wanted to evoke that feeling. So I'm adding my first plant. And you'll notice that the vase that it's in looks like rocks and it matches the artwork behind it, kind of tying into those and a little bit of height. And it's also comforting to have one right next to you if you're at this desk. Next is really the power of threes. And there really is a power of three because we do like pattern like I talked about before with the triangles, but this is a different pattern. This is the 1, 2, 3. So you're putting one in the center, you're engaged, and then you're adding one to the right or one to the left, and then one to the right. And you'll notice that all 3 vases might not be perfectly the same, but they're a little bit the same. And they also look like robin's eggs to me, very natural. And then lastly, I'm kind of adding a power plant here. I think this is a power plant because it's going upward, it's very strong, and it's manipulated, and it's easy to take care of. And just to show you again, this is that same plant 2 years later. That's amazing to me. They're just really easy to take care of. And with that, I want to thank you for coming today and for listening to a lecture on Zoom. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to take questions. I have more plants around me if you had any other questions about plants. I have a few that I could show you if you were interested, or I wanted to offer you all an opportunity to win a free book if you're interested in winning Decorating with Plants. I know that Jennifer, Joan, and I are surrounded by some of our favorite plants. I've got my Hoya and my Ficus triangularis, and Jennifer has her Chinese money plant, and Joan has her Hoya next to her. But if you want to send me a picture of your favorite plant, or you want to post it on Instagram and tag Lila B Design, or post it on Facebook, I'll enter you. I'll do it for the next 5 days, and I'll randomly pick somebody, and I'll send you a free book. So
Taylor,
thank you, everybody.
Taylor, a question about bedrooms. What plants do you think would be good for bedrooms?
Oh, I love that question because in the book, Decorating with Plants, it's sorted by room. And I have what I chose for bedrooms. I chose plants that are really good for cleaning the air. Plants can soak up can soak up sound, which is really amazing, as much as a rug. The soil on the bottom, as well as the leaves, can diffract or absorb sound. Let's see. And so some of my favorites, I put the Sansevieria in the book as one of my favorites. I put a mum because of the qualities that it has on cleaning the air for us. And ivies are nice too. It depends on your style. Like in the other slides when I showed you the quirky and the romantic, what's your style? What's your bedroom like? Is it pink and ruffly, or is it dark gray and really kind of, I don't know, industrial? I don't know. It just depends.
Well, you do address it in the book, so I encourage everybody to take a look because you talk much more in depth. There was also a question about a pyalea. Somebody's having trouble, and they thought it needed low light, but you can answer that.
Oh yeah. So is it the same as the Chinese money plant?
Yeah,
that can take a little bit more light. Yeah. One trick with those that I learned is, and with most plants, and I talked about this earlier, so with a pilea, it's going to go towards the light. So if you have it far away from when it might curve a little bit towards it, so you want to rotate your plants every once in a while. Just rotate them, shimmy them around so that they get enough light and so they grow up straight.
And it does need light. I attest to the fact that it definitely does need light.
Yeah. I've got one here. Yeah. Just in case anybody's wondering what plant it is. I mean, oh, come on. They're so cute. They're just
the best.
They're the best. And they have babies. So that's really, and some people call them the missionary plant as well. And they're really easy to share. See, there are 2 in here. And you could just scoop up one of them and give it to your friend.
Yeah, they're great.
They're great.
There's another question of what is the plant in the white pot on the middle of your shelf behind you? It's beautiful. Is it easy to care for?
It is so easy to care for. This one. This is a cardboard palm, and it's a zinnia. I wrote it down. Yeah, zinnia. And it's so easy. Isn't it beautiful? It's been in this pot like this, just in here for a year, probably. Sarah Green, who I used to work with at Lila B, bought it, and I brought it down from San Francisco. I'm not in San Francisco right now, but I've brought it with me, but it's a tough one. And my studio in San Francisco is north facing, 2 windows, and this did just fine in there. So cardboard palm is what it's called.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Here's another question. Okay, interesting question. What are your thoughts on designing with faux plants, with some faux plants?
Good question. I've gotten asked this before, and it's kind of a love-hate thing with them, but I love them for some reason. I don't like the plastic, and I don't like that, but they still evoke that same feeling. So if you go into a place and you see a fake orchid, and it's a good fake orchid, it still evokes that really nice calming feeling that plants do. And if you must, you can, and try around with some real plants too, and see which ones work for you. But I know I should say, oh, don't do it, but I don't know. I think if it works for you and it still makes you feel good, so many things about plants make us feel good.
Right.
So.
Terrific. Okay. I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Baylor. I don't know if you can see me, but I don't think
I can. Yeah, I'm going to stop my sharing.
There we go.
There you are. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I want to thank you so much. This was terrific. And happy plants, everybody.
Yeah, happy planting. And you can ask me any questions. And thanks so much to everybody in Chappaqua. I'm really thankful that you brought me in.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Joan.
much
Thanks,
for
Jennifer.
doing it. And thank you, Joan.
Okay.
Yes, and I want to thank Baylor and of course Jennifer for this program. I loved, as you can see, I love the plants, and I really think they help when you're decorating your house or you're living in your house to have a lot of plants around. It makes me feel good.
And we're in our house way more. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in our house so much.
I'm getting that monkey. I wrote it down.
Oh, you are? You're going to get a monkey cups?
Plant.
Okay.
That's my next plant. I
Great.
love it.
Okay.
And I'm going to get those snake plants too.
Yeah, those.
I didn't realize they come in so many styles. So thank you.
Yeah. That's a neat thing. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
I really.
Thanks, Baylor. Speak to you.
And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you in the next program from the library, which is on Friday at 2:00.
Sounds like
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, somebody wanted to know if the monkey plant needed fertilizer.
Money plant. No, not really. Not so much.
Not so much.
Okay.
No.
You can. I always go natural. Go with,
But you want to say don't fertilize. When should we stop fertilizing? Because you don't fertilize in the winter.
Oh yeah, definitely go by the seasons.
Yeah.
Some plants like to take a little breather in the winter.
Right. So would you still fertilize it now, or would you stop?
I don't. Honestly, I don't fertilize my plants very much. Sometimes I give them something called Dr. Earth, or I give them some fish emulsion, which smells, but I do it anyway. I try to stick with the natural things and infrequently, or you can do it frequently in very low doses. Yeah.
I read somewhere that you're not supposed to fertilize your ferns. Is that true?
I don't know. I didn't. I'll have to do a little more reading on that because I haven't heard that before.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
All right, I will end the meeting now. We're going way over time.
We could go on forever.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.